Hi guys, I've just finished this other video where I talk about this brain hack about how to really engage your partner and get them to come into your world and stay connected to you rather than trying to fix stuff or defend it. And so that's kind of like part one of this. And I kind of finished that and realized there was another piece that I wanted to do. And so I have this kind of cool little story. So I'm doing this as a separate video. You can watch them. You don't have to watch them in the same order. They're both standalone. But if you've come to this video first, you might want to go back and have a look for the other video as well. So what this video is about is this kind of another sort of amazing brain hack that you can use to literally get your partner to do pretty much anything you want. In fact, it's so powerful that I've had clients say, Steve, like it just feels like I'm manipulating my partner and I'm controlling them. And the thing is, I'm saying you're absolutely not. You're actually just being incredibly direct and straightforward. But it is intensely powerful because it it taps into your partner's love for you, and so this is a tremendous power, because if you use this process wrongly, and a lot of people do use it wrongly, it's also the thing that will destroy your love and destroy your connection. And so it's kind of, this is a very powerful tool. You can use the knife to create a beautiful meal, to prepare food, to create a space where people feel loved, where they look forward to, to come home. And knives can also be used to hurt and wound and maim. So this is a really powerful tool that I'm really excited to tell you about. So there's a story behind this. And so this story is back in the dark ages, when phones were not smartphones, and we didn't have those wonderful auto-predictive text problems, because if you wanted to text, you had to kind of push the button 3 times and do those kind of things. And I hated texting. Okay, I was not one of those people who were like text natives and would drive along just sort of texting, not even looking. I had basically 3 texts. So the first one was Y for yes, N for no, and K for okay. And after that, you could call me or I'd call you, but that was pretty much the only way it was happening. And so what happened is I was working with this couple, this adorable couple, and they'd come in and they'd been really disconnected for a long time, like 15, 20 years kind of thing. And what happened was they came in and they were so excited, but they were also really scared, because they were like, hey, we're going to be apart. The guy's job took him away to remote locations. So there was no email available, and kind of like the spotty reception. So even calls were kind of hard. And they said, well, so how do we do these connections? We want to practice these appreciation things, and just send messages. And I said, well, look, you can just text them. You can just let them know. I mean, obviously, it's not as great as face to face, but it's still it creates that connection, and it's the best channel of communication that you have at this point in time. So they're like, okay, great, we can do this, and they walk out, and so I had about sort of 7 or 8 minutes before my next client was due to come in, and I'd done notes and all of that stuff was sorted. And I was sitting there, and I was sort of thinking about what I'd said to them, and I thought, hey, I should really just send my partner, a text, and just try and send her like a proper text. And so, and I didn't want to, and basically, because I don't want to be a hypocrite. I don't want to be telling people to do stuff that I don't actually do in my relationship myself. So I sent a message off to my partner, and so it wasn't long at all. It was something like, "Hey hon, love you. Hope your day's going well." It was pretty minimal, but in the context for me, it was a bit of an essay from a text point of view. Sent that off. Went in through the rest of my day. Didn't really think anything more of it. So I get home that night, and come in, we're having dinner, and my partner says, "Hey, babe, can I tell you something that I really appreciate about you?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, have at it." And she says, "I really appreciate that text message that you sent me this morning, and what I really liked about it is I was having a really shit day. And so, your message came in, and I saw it was from you, so I saved it for morning tea, so I had something to look forward to." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool. And she said, I got your message, and I was just thinking, I really appreciate, how much you love me, and you think about me, and you're caring for me. And it just makes me feel really secure and loved in our relationship. I'm like, cool. And then she said, and I was feeling really happy, and so I decided I was going to make your favorite lamb curry, for tea. Now I'd noticed the lamb curry, I hadn't noticed the connection to the message. The lamb curry was an additional bonus in the story. So that's basically what she did. Now, so the question I have to ask you is, did she get a text the next day? The answer, of course, is hell yes, because it had a big impact, and it had a big impact because I care about her, and she matters to me, and so, I obviously want to do that stuff. And so the thing is, when I was sending that message, okay, what story was running through my head? Because remember, I've got two stories, and the one is, I don't want to be a hypocrite, which was my story. And the other story is, you're doing this because you love me and you care about me and you want me to feel secure in the relationship. Okay? Now, if we look at those two stories, this story is way more powerful. It's a much more weighty story, and it's much more connected to, my sense of value about who I am, how I am in the world. Like it's certainly not always true, but it's aspirational about how I want to be, it's how I want to see myself. So as I'm texting it, her story is running kind of like a recorder in my head as I'm sending the text, which means I'm getting happy. My brain's getting dopamine and oxytocin and all sorts of kind of happy thoughts just from sending her the message. Okay, which is pretty cool. So, she gets the message, I can't remember what the second day feedback was or whatever, but there's this pattern. And so every time I send her a message, what she's communicated to me is, this is really important to me. This matters to me. When you do this, it communicates value to me. And what happens is, because her story was more potent and more powerful, that's the story I repeat. Now, in the earlier one that I talked about, she also did create a picture. That picture of, like, I'm sitting there, I'm having a bad day, and I get your message, and I'm like, oh, this message from Steve is so important. I'll save it, so it's kind of like something aspirational that I have to look forward to, which makes me feel pretty freaking powerful as well. So she did that piece well, and I talk more about how to do that in the other video. But the second thing she did, so it was kind of this 1-2 piece she did, was she made this story up, and her story is, when you do this thing, I have this impact, and it creates this story about you. So she takes 3 minutes or 4 minutes of my time doing a slightly infuriating kind of texting thing, and says, that little behavior you do is a demonstration of this. That little behavior you do is, helps me feel secure. It helps me feel loved. Helps me feel wanted. It makes me feel valued. And ultimately, that's the key to a good relationship, is that we are doing behaviors that build those kind of things, step by step by step. And the key to a bad relationship is to do things that build other messages into the relationship. And so what tends to happen is, when something good happens in the relationship, we tend to notice our feeling, and the story sits a little bit in the background. Okay, so it's less conscious. Okay, but if something really bad happens, like you come home late, you didn't call me, you haven't messaged me, you haven't done those kind of things, then often our story is much closer, and then we want to spread it. And so what this means in practice is, we are much more likely to share with our partner, when we're outside the honeymoon period, the stories of how they hurt us, how they, make us feel invisible, or not valued, or unimportant, or betrayed, or unsafe, or all of those kind of things. And so what happens is, because those stories are really powerful, so if I'd sent that message, and she'd come home and she'd said something like, yeah, hey, it was great that you sent me that text today. It's kind of like the first time you've done that, in months. And I just feel like, I was just thinking that you don't really care about me, because you can't take 4 minutes to send me a text, and you always just send me those, the Y's or the N's or the K's. So I feel not very important or not valued. Which flipping the side was a totally valid thing that she could have said. Okay, because this wasn't a case where, every day I kind of did this thing. But because she focused on the thing that I had done and linked that with a powerful story, it had this different impact. Sorry, let me jump back. So if she had sent the negative message, would she have got a text the next day? Now, maybe I might have gone, oh, fuck you, I can't be bothered, I'm not going to do that stuff, and got resistant and defiant. So that was a possibility. Or maybe I'm kind of like, I do care about you, I do want you to have this thing, so I'm going to try, and I'm sending the text. What story is running through my head while I'm sending the text? Okay, hope your day's going okay. You don't love me, you don't care about me, I don't matter to you. Okay, and so what's happening is this message, this so-called loving message that I'm sending, is being attached to pain. So it means it's causing me pain when I'm doing something that's good for the relationship. And so remember I said, the sword, like this knife that can be used for good or for evil. When we nag someone, when we remind them of all the things that they do that hurt us in the relationship, that make things not work, what we are doing is we're helping our partner associate pain, a story of pain, with a behavior that we actually want them to do. Yeah. So if we tell our partner, why don't you come home on time? You're always late. You always make me feel like I'm the last thing on the list. Everything else is more important. The message is when our partner is coming home, the story that's running through their head is, I'm less important. You don't value me. You don't, I don't matter to you. You're not a good partner. All of those kind of things. And so we are putting essentially the logical part of our brain that says, okay, logically our adult brain can get, when you're doing this negative message, I can separate the fact that there was a no in there. The emotional part of the brain, the 4-year-old part of the brain, can't hear that. It just puts the two of them together. That part of the brain actually doesn't understand negative. Okay, and I'll give you a quick example of this. So what I want you to do is, if you really care about your relationship, if you want to stay married, if you want to be in love, if you want to be connected, for the next 30 seconds, and this is so important, do not think about crunchy bars. Okay, whatever you do, okay, just for the next 30 seconds, you can do it. Just don't think about crunchy bars, especially don't think about that golden honeycomb bit that goes, when you break it or you bite it. Don't think about that chocolate on the outside or the sweetness. Don't think about any of those kind of things. What are you thinking about? You can't stop your brain going to that space. And so when we nag, our brain links whatever the picture was and the story. And so so basically, if we can be intentional about pictures and stories and the ways that we use those together, we can be really, really powerful. And so there's a set of associated skills that kind of go with how to use that, in terms of, because there are ways to talk about, and I talk about that a bit in the other video, about sort of saying, hey, this happened and this is what hurt me, and there are some strategies you can use to help with that. But the key bit that I want you to take away is that, if particularly with appreciations, if you can link, hey, when you did this thing, paint the picture, this is the story that I was telling myself, that's a really powerful motivation thing, because what it does is it ties our partner who cares about us into the aspirational way that they want to be. So when my partner says, when you did this, like when you hang the washing up, oh, it just makes me feel like, we're part of a team. And I'm like, sweet, I want to be part of a team. That's an important value to me. I want to do that more, because that ties into my value. And so then what happens is, every single time I'm folding the washing out, or hanging the washing out, or folding it, there's that bit that says, oh, I'm part of a team. This makes it happy. So there's a reinforcement. And so people in happy relationships have, consciously or unconsciously, they've learned how to use that strategy to essentially to brain hack their partner in the most positive way in the world. And for those of you who think, oh my God, this is so powerful, it sounds like manipulation, it's totally not manipulation. You are literally telling your partner exactly what you like. You're being really direct and really clear. And so my invitation to you is to practice looking for what your partner is doing well, telling them about that and then telling the story about that. So what happens is there's kind of a bit of an excavation that happens there as well, because you're like, huh, why is that so powerful? What does that actually do for me? And it can be really surprising. I know for me, sometimes when I come home, and my partner's kind of like baking cookies or something, so there'll be a particular smell, and it reminds me of being a child and kind of coming home, and I lived in a different country. I grew up in South Africa. We went there from New Zealand, and I spent a lot of time feeling quite out of place and quite disconnected. But there would be that sense of coming home, and my mum would be baking Anzac biscuits, and so I'd walk in, and there would be that smell, and I remember that feeling of my mouth kind of salivating, and that my body relaxing, and this kind of like, it's gonna be a good day. And so we just have those triggers, and so there are things like. My wife has this amazing makes these amazing salads. She just creates these incredibly nutritious, and they're very colorful, and there's all these different fruit, and they taste amazing, and she just has this kind of like infinite variety of things she makes. Now I'm a little bit lazy, like I'm quite into my meat and that kind of thing, and I'll do a lot of work on that. But salads, like, I like them, but I often don't spend as much time on them. And so when she does that, there's this part of me, I just look at this and it's so beautiful, and I feel really kind of like special. I feel cared for, and the story that I tell myself is, and that I tell my wife is, when you do that, it makes me feel like I'm really important, because you've just focused this effort and this time, on me, and on the kids, and yeah, it makes me feel loved. And so by communicating that process, what it does is that it's just telling my wife how to win. Okay. And so this is a really kind of amazing, super simple thing that you can do. And like, I just even noticed, even as I tell that story, I can feel, that feelings of, the memories of the ways, the many memories of the ways that my wife has cared for me. And so my brain is kind of going through that Rolodex of memories, in a sense, in a positive way. And so actually the like, it's powerful for my wife, but it's really powerful for me too. So give it a go. So my encouragement today is to find something. And again, it's my wife made a salad. He sent me a text message. Most of the things in real relationships with a relationship champion, we're not donating a kidney every day. Most of the time, the stuff that we're doing is not massive stuff. It's little stuff. It's a way that, that someone walks past and they just stroke you on the back, or they smile, or they say, hey, or they send you a funny joke, or they do stuff like that. And if you can sort of think about, just take that moment and think, what's the story? What does it tell? What does it tell me when I receive this? And then let your partner know, and it helps expand their awareness and their skill set about how to be really successful with you. Okay, thanks guys. Oh, sorry, I have something else I need to tell you. Sorry for all the ums and ahs. We are in the process of migrating and developing some course material, and we're going to be migrating platforms and stuff, and we'll be extending the course material. So for those of you who have already purchased the course, don't worry, we will transfer you onto the new one. You get all of the new updates and stuff for free. You don't have to do anything. Don't worry about it. You'll have access to it. One of my big beliefs is that people who commit to, like, everything we're doing is a learning process. We're all kind of learning. We always get new stuff, but those people who kind of came in and supported us when we were just learning how to do this stuff and kind of making mistakes and getting new things, I always want to find a way to kind of support that and kind of acknowledge that. And so my tendency is, that we're going to sort of grandparent you into all of that stuff. So if you've done that, that's really amazing. Now, the new course will be more expensive because there's a whole bunch of new work that's kind of gone into it. So for quite a limited time, I think about a few weeks or so before the course goes online, if you get in and get the course, you can get it at the original, at the much lower price. And so, and what you can do, because you watch my kind of crazy video here, if you use the discount code Stephen, that will work, I think, for about 2.5 weeks more. So if you happen to be sort of really up to date and you've used the code and all of that kind of thing. I'm not exactly sure when the transition goes, but I think it's about that time period. So if you get in, once it's gone, it's gone. That's kind of how it is, but there's a little bonus in there. So if you sign in, then what you will do is you will get the existing course material as it is, plus we'll then migrate you across to the other system and give you upgrade materials and access to that, and that's going to be really cool. And yeah, thanks so much for looking, and yeah, have a great day.